is going on, everybody? Welcome back into Fantasy Daily. I apologize for the lateness. I've got a lot of stuff going on outside of Fantasy Daily. I'm doing some moving, doing some working on my stuff. So a lot of moving on here. I know I haven't been on for a while. I don't even know how long ago it was. It was probably something like 10 days ago or something like that. It's been a long time, but I promise you, I've been keeping myself up to date. I'm here to keep you up to date. I've been very excited looking at everything still. I've been still working on my show docs to make sure I have everything in line. And with that, we have a lot of stuff to go through tonight. And most importantly, this is my mock draft show. So the draft is less than 25 days away. We got a lot of excitement building, a lot of movement going. Got a big show for you guys tonight. I'm very excited. So apologize for the delay. Obviously, it's the off season, so it's a little bit easier for me to kind of take a break, jump back in, and then give you a full category of everything that's happened within a week or 2 weeks. Because things move a lot slower in the off season, and it's easier for us to do these things as time, as this off season progresses. So, during the year, obviously, this is Fantasy Daily. I'm going to do my best to be on here absolutely every single day during the regular season, because during the regular season, that's when it's important. Things can change in a minute. Player, values can change in a minute, and it's very important that every single day that you're up to date on that. And that's the whole purpose of this show. A half an hour wrap up of everything you need to know. There's so much going on. Man, how am I supposed to keep track of all this? Your boy Nathan's got you right here at Fantasy Daily. And if you're on YouTube, thanks for joining us. Hit that like and subscribe button. Keep on scrolling down. Check out the descriptions. Open up another tab to check out the Dynasty Rankings and follow along as I'm talking about them, because we got some changes to Dynasty Rankings, which is going to bring us right back into our news, which right now is a big piece of news for me because I don't think people are talking about it enough, and that's Sam Darnold to Carolina. So first and foremost, before we get into the Carolina implications, let's talk about Sam Darnold leaving the Jets. And now the Jets don't have a quarterback, but they're at number 2. So they're getting a quarterback, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit when I go through my mock draft for all the offensive players, by the way. There's obviously a lot of defense stuff. We're not going to bubble that all in here. We're a fantasy football show. There's not a huge, there's not a lot of implications that come off of defensive players going to teams unless they're really, really big names. And you got to kind of let that digest before you say, okay, well, that defense is better now because of that. Obviously, in the first round, you can say that to certain players, but it really doesn't go to the extent that offensive players do, where it can change a whole dynamic of a team, or it can give you hope for a team. It can give you hope for a different player, maybe your quarterback, maybe the wide receivers, where the quarterback goes. Things like that. So I want to cover mostly the offensive stuff on that show. But anyway, before I get too carried away, Sam Darnold's going to Carolina. All right, so Jets are out of a quarterback. Sam Darnold goes to Carolina, where he's got 1 year left, and they can probably pick up the 5th-year option. It's said now, the rumor, they're probably going to pick up the 5th-year option. I expect them to too, because if you're going to go and get Sam Darnold, you're going to trade for him. You might as well see what's going to happen for 2 years. So with Carolina being at 7 or 8, something like that, it's like, or maybe they're at 9. I don't remember where they are. They're somewhere in there. But wherever they are, I don't expect them to take quarterback now that they have invested in Sam Darnold, and I expect them to invest in Sam Darnold for the next couple of years at least, to see where things go and to see if they can build around him, and then maybe in a couple of years, if it doesn't work out, they can, swap the quarterbacks out. So with that, Teddy Bridgewater now kind of gets, pushed down the succession. I've talked to a lot of people who are like, oh, well, what if Teddy Bridgewater is the starter? Matt Rule's a big fan of Sam Darnold. He has been since before the draft, before Sam Darnold was drafted. So I think that, we need to highlight that here to say the coach is a big fan of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was a really, high investment. Teddy Bridgewater wasn't, so it's really easy for Teddy Bridgewater to go somewhere else and really not cost that team anything. Carolina can get a pick back or a player back or something like that for him. So I expect Teddy Bridgewater to be moved. He'll get a new home. It's exciting to see where Teddy Bridgewater is going to go, because I do believe he's still got some stuff in the tank. And if he ends up on a team that is quarterback needy, then, he could fill that room, make it, at least enough to care about the wide receivers somewhere. Say, for example, he ends up in Denver, that would make me feel good about Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. So there's going to be a lot of teams that come out of this draft without a quarterback. Me being a Patriots fan, in my projection, I'll already spoil it. I don't expect Patriots to get the quarterback that they want. So with them, not getting that quarterback, this could be one of those things where they have to go out and find somebody who's in Teddy Bridgewater's situation, or somebody that's still kind of hanging around there. There's a lot of teams that are going to have that problem. So Teddy Bridgewater is probably going to get traded. I also think that another implication that not many people are looking at with Sam Darnold going to Carolina is the fact that Robbie Anderson's in Carolina, and Robbie Anderson to date is, I believe, Sam Darnold's best wide receiver when you look at it statistically. So they definitely had a rapport there. And if you remember when Robbie Anderson was with Sam Darnold, he was still kind of a fantasy asset. So I believe that with Sam Darnold getting over to Carolina with Robbie Anderson, that could maybe help out Robbie Anderson's value a little bit, DJ Moore's value a little bit. So I do think this is a good thing for Sam Darnold. I do think it's a good thing for Carolina. I actually moved Sam Darnold up in my rankings. He has now made it to 15 underneath Ryan Tannehill and Baker Mayfield. So he's sandwiched in between those two because I think that the team is just way too good. You have CMC, or the offense itself is way too good. And now Carolina has some firepower where they can go do some stuff in the draft instead of trading up. Instead of spending that high round draft pick on a quarterback. Now you can wait a little bit, let everybody else fight over the quarterbacks, go get an offensive piece or a defensive piece that's really going to help you right now. So I do think this is a really good trade for Carolina. I think it was a good idea for the new coach, Saleh from San Francisco, to come in after, having a couple years of watching Sam Darnold. He came in, he goes, okay, this isn't going to be the guy to start for, but I'm not going to throw you to the Wolves. Here you go. You can go to Carolina, and I'm going to get some good stuff for you. So they get a second this year, a fourth and a sixth next year in exchange for Sam Darnold. And it's a good trade for everybody. Moving on, a little bit of draft stuff. The teams are calling for the Falcons' fourth-round pick, but it looks like the Falcons' fourth-round pick is really, really expensive, and they don't want to move on it. Apparently, the GM for the Falcons wants Trey Lance really bad, but Dan Snyder, the owner, says that he believes that Matt Ryan still has 2 years left in him. And I believe that Matt Ryan may still have more time than that in him. I know there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league who we look at right now, and you go, if I'm looking at just my rankings, after number 9, when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't really want anybody super long-term. I'm not stoked about anybody past Aaron Rodgers long-term, and even that, it's Aaron Rodgers. So when you think about it, it's only 8 quarterbacks that have really long-term value. So when you look at Matt Ryan, he's a fine quarterback. I have him ranked at 13. So, I'm not going to sit here and say they need to go out and get a quarterback because I don't believe so. So I believe that they'll listen to offers, but I think they're going to outprice themselves out of selling out of that, which I don't believe is a good idea for the Falcons. But then again, first round draft capital is huge. It can completely change your team. It can completely change your offense or defense. And we'll get into that a little bit where I have Falcons projected for my mock draft. A little bit of Philly news. Jordan Howard is back to Philly, which kind of stinks because I like Miles Sanders a lot. And I don't think many people realize this, but Jordan Howard is actually only 26 years old. So with Jordan Howard being that young and being able to actually kind of still play, I know he missed a lot of time last year, but I do believe that Jordan Howard can still play, and he even might take time away from Miles Sanders. So being a Miles Sanders, fan, I don't have him in any leagues right now, but at the same time, I want to see where I have Miles Sanders ranked. I haven't touched his rankings yet. I have him at 13. And with Jordan Howard going down, I might move him down under Chris Carson, Austin Eckler, not below J.K. Dobbins. So Miles Sanders might fall to 15 or so. I'm really not going to go crazy with saying that he should be moved down. He should be looked at, or you should be worried about Miles Sanders. But I do believe he's going to lose some carries a little bit there. I'd be more worried about Jordan Howard going to Philly, because of all the times that we've seen Miles Sanders actually take a backseat to running backs he shouldn't be taking a backseat to. So I'd be more worried about Jordan Howard going to Philly than I am Carlos Hyde going to Jacksonville with James Robinson. So I'm trying to make that kind of correlation between James Robinson and Miles Sanders, and then the backups coming in. I'm a lot more worried about Jordan Howard than I am the Carlos Hyde kind of implications, where I feel like that's not that team. And it's important for me to make that distinction where, one team does operate on I have a really good running back, but I'm going to keep punching myself in the face by putting other running backs in instead. And that's Miles Sanders. Philly, whatever you do with your roster, it doesn't matter. Miles Sanders is the best player on your team, and you're not using him correctly. So, welcome back, Jordan Howard. I'm glad you got a job, but you're breaking my heart. Let's see what we got here. A little bit of news for my rankings. Daniel Jones actually has been moved up since my last show. So if you're still watching, you didn't unsubscribe and leave after I told you that my quarterback that you're going to want this year is Daniel Jones, first of all, thank you for staying. And I actually put my money where my mouth is. However that saying goes, I think that's how it goes. And I did move Daniel Jones up to number 10, underneath Aaron Rodgers and just above Jalen Hurts. So it's not a crazy projection when you really look at the quarterbacks and go there. I'm sure anybody looking at my rankings would go, okay, that kind of makes sense. But I am bullish on Daniel Jones. I like everything that the Giants are doing. I like their draft picks, that, you know, they have the availability of what they can do in the draft. They don't have to go offense, and they still have a good amount of picks. They finished at a, you know, low enough spot that they can actually go and grab something that's going to change their defense or their O-line or whatever it may be right now. So I think that the Giants are going to be, you know, kind of a, you know, dark horse sort of team this year where not many people are looking at them, but oh wow, they're going to win the East. And I'm willing to put my, you know, my money there, where Dallas is kind of in shambles still, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants win the East there. So a little bit of news too from the from, you know, draft implications and stuff like that. I just want to throw this in here because I am a Patriots fan, and I know most of my viewers are Patriots fans, or at least live in New England or Massachusetts, Rhode Island, whatever. But the Patriots scouts said that they wanted Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown, and Bill Belichick ended up grabbing N'Keal Harry anyway. Now, the reason I bring this up is because since it's draft season, I really want us to, you know, what's that word? Internalize the picks and the rankings and the projections that we're doing right now, because this is the same thing as fantasy football, where you're projecting somebody. Like last year, I was all about DJ Moore with Teddy Bridgewater coming over, and you could make that argument. There was a couple people who were with me, a couple people who were against me, but the argument was there and it could be made. So with that being said, going back to the 2018 draft, I believe it was going into the 2019 season, so it was 2019's draft, I believe, where they drafted N'Keal Harry. Yeah, they drafted N'Keal Harry in 2019. So N'Keal Harry was projected to go top 3 in that draft. So with that, we now here 2 years later with hindsight are going, oh, Bill didn't listen to any of his people. He drafted N'Keal instead because of his buddy. Yeah, all right. I get it. It hurts now that you're seeing A.J. Brown do what he does. It hurts now that you see Deebo Samuel, you know, balling out. But you got to realize that these are different offenses. If N'Keal Harry was in A.J. Brown's spot, we might have that conversation about N'Keal Harry and then being disappointed with A.J. Brown. It wasn't a matter of who picked who. It was a matter of the team being in complete shambles. So the reason that I bring that up is because I listen to a lot of Boston sports radio. I know a lot of my viewers are from, you know, that area. They're Patriots fans. So being that it's now draft season, internalize these picks. Remember, Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, all the guys. Remember how you're ranking them now. And remember that later on you can't judge your team or say, well, this team doesn't know how to draft it. They don't know what they're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. Patriots have horrible drafts. They have absolutely horrible drafts. But they've also had some really, really good picks in the past. Really good first-round picks in the past, you know. So being that N'Keal Harry was a shot in the foot, at the time, we were saying, we need to go get a wide receiver for Tom Brady. Bill, how come you won't do this? And then he goes and does it, and we're like, yes, we got N'Keal Harry. The man's a monster. I even called him the next Julio Jones. I was so excited about N'Keal Harry. I don't think N'Keal Harry's past the cliff where he's not going to be able to be a guy like that. I do believe that at some point he gets released or he gets traded because he doesn't fit the bill here. But this is a different team. This is a different offense than when Tom Brady was here. So just saying, as a fan, as a self-proclaimed analyst or whatever I want to call myself, I think it's important to not get caught up in recency bias when it comes into draft season, because that's going to end up with hurt feelings, saltiness, and arguments that shouldn't be made at all. So I just wanted to comment on that when it comes to, you know, the Patriots or any team that it may be. Remember how stuck in recency bias we can get and how bad we want a player to draft somebody. Trust me, I'm there. I remember me and one of my friends at work were the only two people who were saying we need to go get Lamar Jackson. We need to go get Lamar Jackson. And then they drafted Sony Michel. And that hurt. You know, but it happens, and you can't get caught up in recency bias. You got to understand these things happen. Let the team run the team. Don't be the manager from the couch. Enjoy what you got to enjoy. And you just had 20 years of greatness. Come on, man. Don't be upset at N'Keal. N'Keal's a boss. N'Keal's a dog. And I feel N'Keal's going to be there one day. It's just not on this team. You know, they drafted him for Brady. We don't have Brady anymore. We have Cam Newton, and Cam Newton's probably going to be that starter. We'll get into that right now. Oh, before I get back into that, Panthers also grabbed AJ Bouye tonight before I got online, so I just threw that in there. AJ Bouye to the Panthers. Panthers doing big things. Bada bing, bada boom. I only got 15 minutes left to let you guys go, so let's get right into mock draft. Now, it is easy here, right? It is easy here at number 1. Everybody knows the draft order up for with the first 3 picks or so it's kind of easy to really fit in these first few picks. Jacksonville, you need a quarterback really bad. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows who the dog is right now. Everybody who knows who the next Peyton Manning is, whatever you want to call him, is Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. No, he's not going number 2. People are saying that Jags might take Zach Wilson, blah, 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 blah. There's no way. I don't think there's a possibility where Trevor Lawrence doesn't absolutely go number 1 over Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence is, I'm not usually one who's big on, college quarterbacks. I usually watch loosely every single year. I've watched a lot more this year. But Trevor Lawrence is something special, man. And I'm excited to see him end up on the Jags with Marvin Jones and, just the cast over there, Laviska Shenault, DJ Shark, James Robinson. I'm excited to see that offense. Number 2, the Jets. Now, this is where we can kind of toss in, what's going to happen? What quarterbacks are you going to grab? Blah, blah, blah. Jets obviously need a quarterback. They just got rid of Sam Darnold. They're obviously going to go quarterback. So, my prediction is that they go Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is a dog. He is good. He is so good at football. I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson. I think it's a no-brainer for the Jets to take it here. So, Zach Wilson ending up on the Jets. Bada bing, bada boom. They're going to be okay this year with Zach Wilson. They're in a division where they can kind of play around. I think Dolphins win that division this year, but they're in a division where they can kind of afford to play this game right now at Zach Wilson, and I do think that they're going to be an okay team with Zach Wilson coming into town. They grabbed a lot of wide receivers. They were another one of those teams that has like 500 people on the depth chart just so Zach Wilson can come in and throw balls at him and go, I like that guy better, I like that guy better, let's do that. And they also have a lot of draft picks very high up in the draft, 2nd round, 3rd round. I think they have a lot of picks on day 3. So, they have a lot to work with and a lot that they can build on. And, I'm excited to see what the Jets do. San Francisco at 3. They traded a bunch of stuff. I don't remember what they traded if you weren't with me. Let me see. Dolphins traded the 103 to San Francisco. They got back the 112, a 3rd, and a 2022 first and a 2023 first. So this right here, I want to stop on real quick because they traded up to the 3rd pick, San Francisco, and they had to give up their first and 2 more firsts in consecutive years, 2022 and 2023, in order to move up to 3. Now, I want to stop and highlight this first before I announce their pick. I want to stop and highlight this because I feel like this is a part that we're really not analyzing enough as, the football community kind of sits back and watches and goes, okay, how come this team doesn't trade up now? How come this team doesn't trade up? When a wide receiver or running back gets like an historic amount of money, people always talk about resetting the market. Like, oh my God, Todd Gurley reset the market. Patrick Mahomes reset the market. This guy just reset the market. And that, we have those conversations because they hold out or whatever. They get these big contracts and they completely flip the script on what payment is supposed to be now. It's kind of the inflation of their own. And I believe that was what happened when the Dolphins traded this pick and San Francisco actually paid for it. To me, I understand that San Francisco's trading up to get their future, but they had Jimmy G. They obviously aren't looking at Jimmy G long term, but they still had him next year. They're still paying him something like $24 million next year. So this move necessarily didn't need to be made by San Francisco, and yet they still did it, ended up paying 3 first-round picks in return. So I believe that this alone is argument enough to say that, the Dolphins and San Francisco really reset the market for this year, this particular draft. I don't think this is going forward, but I feel like if you want a quarterback, if you want one of the Fab 5 in this draft, you're going to have to pay 2 first rounds, one of them being your current first round and your next year's first round, in order to move anywhere close to that. So with Falcons being one after, and I talked about earlier that I don't think the Falcons are going to be able to trade out of that pick. I think the Falcons are looking for something similar. They want your first round pick and 2 more first round picks because they can use a lot of help. And they might be looking for a quarterback in a couple of years. They could be looking for that too. So I believe that the Falcons are asking an outrageous price, and that's why you haven't seen the movement there. And I believe all of that is caused by the Dolphins and San Francisco trade. So with that being said, I did project my mock draft to have no trades. I do believe somebody will cave draft night and maybe work up to, what are you looking at? Okay, sorry, my Anchor by Spotify, which if you're doing podcasts, download Anchor by Spotify and get your podcasting going. But anyway, my screen changed on me and got me scared. I didn't think I was recording. I got to make sure I got the audio for the podcast listeners. It's not all about you, YouTube. But if you are on Spotify, get on over to YouTube and like and subscribe. Scroll down to those descriptions. Check out the Dynasty Rankings. Anyway, I'm getting off the key. Anyway, so going back to San Francisco and the Dolphins trade, I think they reset the market for that, so it's going to be really hard for people to trade to get the quarterback they want. With that, I didn't project any of my mock draft to have any trades. I do believe there's going to be trades that night between from the Falcons, maybe even Detroit, maybe even Carolina, now that they have their pick. So we'll see what happens, but I didn't project any of my picks out for trades. I just went straight down the block with the current projections. And, I only listed offensive pieces that I think were huge. Defensive pieces, I didn't really list at all. I kind of just took what I believe that their positions are going to be. But for time purposes tonight, I'm really not going to get into those guys. I'm going to just say defense, blah, 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 whatever, and skip over it. So far we have Trevor Lawrence going to the Jags, Jets getting Zach Wilson. I believe that's kind of a no-brainer for everybody. I believe that's the best way for them to go. And there's been rumblings that Kyle Shanahan's a big fan of Mac Jones. Chris Sims says that it's inevitable that Mac Jones is going to be a 49er. Somebody said, I don't remember, I'm drawing a blank on my sources, but somebody said that it's basically as inevitable as Trevor Lawrence going to San Francisco. And he even said, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, you can book it right now. There's no way it's not happening. So I do believe that there's been enough narrative to say that Mac Jones is definitely going to San Francisco. So let's just say right off the bat, I agree. Mac Jones going to San Francisco. There go the big three. Boom, boom, boom. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. Now, there's still two big quarterbacks on the board, and there's still a lot of picks to go, and there's a lot of quarterback-hungry teams, so I expect the trades to be made, but I didn't project it out here. Moving on to the Falcons. Now, I do believe that the Falcons are going to take the offensive line, the offensive line, Penei Sewell. I'm not great with names right now, but I do believe they take that offensive line, Penny Sewell or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name. I'll get it better later on in the year. But I do believe they take that offensive line. But this is top 5 of a mock draft show on a fantasy show. That's not fun. It ain't no fun taking an offensive line piece if you're the Falcons and we're doing a mock draft show. So boom, Falcons are taking Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama, because how long have Falcons been mouth-watering for a running back they can trust? The last time you had it was Devontae Freeman. And guess what? That was Kyle Shanahan's offense. So you haven't had a running back that you can trust in a long, long time. I believe the Falcons are going to get a running back at some point in this draft. But, I don't think it's going to be here at 4. I'm just kind of being, overzealous about having fun with fantasy football. But I do think at some point they take him, and I'm throwing Najee Harris in here. To be honest, I don't think running backs really go until late in the first round, depending on when Najee finally falls off the board. But for fun, Falcons get Najee Harris. Now, Cincy, I think this is an inevitable pick, and I think this is going to be an explosive pick for Cincy, and that's Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. He is absolutely a monster. He's a generational talent, the next big thing, whatever you want to call him. Kyle Pitts is amazing. He's going to completely blow this offense up to the point where you can't go anywhere. Now, Giovanni Bernard, he asked for his release. I forgot to put that in the news. He's been released by Cincinnati, so it's only Joe Mixon in the backfield. I do expect them to add some depth, some more depth, but I believe that Cincinnati and Kyle Pitts is inevitable, and it's going to be huge when they get Kyle Pitts because that's going to be awesome. A tight end, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow. Oof. I love it. I love it. Moving on to the Dolphins. Now, this is the Dolphins pick that they got after they traded with San Francisco, and the Dolphins have a need at wide receiver. And I know they're probably going to go offense, defense, whatever. That's boring. Dolphins get Jamar Chase. I think that they're really desperate at wide receiver besides Devontae Parker. And if you had a two-headed beast with Tua, you had a good running back. They have a lot of picks in this draft. Dolphins really have a lot of picks the next couple of years, but I think it's one of those things where you lock up a wide receiver right now, you don't have to pay him, and he automatically gives you the insight to say, hey, Tua, Are you the guy or are you not the guy? We got you Devontae Parker and Jamar Chase and Myles Gaskin and probably another running back, and they're probably going to beef up both offensive line. So I think this is the year where they really go big on wide receivers and running backs and offensive pieces in the draft and go, hey, Tua, are you the guy or not? So we'll see what happens there. Detroit, I think this is money in the bag pick. I'm willing to bet money on this one. I think Detroit goes wide receiver, and since Jamar Chase is already taken off the board, you can flip a coin on if it's Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith. I picked Jalen Waddle because I think he kind of fits that bill more for Jared Goff. I think he fits that team's, dynamic a little bit more. Obviously, Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones are gone now, so wide receiver is a big, big deal in there. Now, they added some good pieces in the offseason. I can't remember. I don't want to scroll back up for time purposes, but I do believe that they need a new talent in there, and Jalen Waddle's that guy who fits that perfectly. Next is Carolina. I think they go defense or offensive line, so we'll skip that. Then we're off to Denver. Now, Denver is QB needy. And now in the past, John Elway has been the guy who says, I'm going to, make the picks at quarterback. He got Osweiler in there. I can't remember the guy in between when he got Drew Lock. But anyway, John Elway's been a disaster at quarterback. He's admitted it. He's saying, I'm taking a step away from, getting quarterbacks and everything. I'm going to let my team, kind of take it from here. And for that reason, I believe Denver goes into the future. And when I say the future, I mean rushing quarterback. Patrick Mahomes style, can move out of the pocket. You can trust him when the play breaks down to make something happen, and that's Justin Fields. It can be made the argument that Trey Lance is that guy, but I don't think Trey Lance is an immediate change like Justin Fields would be for Denver, and I do believe that's what they need. They need somebody to come in and completely shake up what they've done. Also be a, a rally around guy. And I think Justin Fields does kind of have that. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation out there right now saying Justin Fields is this and that slander. But this, to me, wasn't the case a few months ago. Now it's all coming out. Wherever it's coming from, I don't care. But to me, I think Justin Fields is another one of those guys you can look at and go, okay, he's got a different skill set than everybody else. He can move out of the pocket. I can not trust him in the NFL just yet. But he has the ability to, at points, make a play when the play breaks down. And I believe that's what Denver needs right now for the culture to get better in Denver. They have really good wide receivers, and I think Justin Fields is perfect for that role. And I believe that also helps Melvin Gordon a little bit, by the way. So wink, wink, if we get down the line and Denver takes a really good quarterback, I think Melvin Gordon's to look at, because don't forget, Melvin Gordon can catch balls. As much as he didn't do it with Austin Eckler, he can catch passes. So, obviously he's not catching crazy passes. He's not Antonio Gibson. Antonio, my boy. But he can catch balls. So, I think Melvin Gordon, if he gets a quarterback we can trust and look at, I think Melvin Gordon's a really good asset, and he's going to jump up in the rankings. Just a little hint for the future. I think Dallas at the next pick goes defense. I think Giants at the next pick go defense, and I'm going to jump right back into Philly. Now, Philly, you've been the laughingstock, all right? We know this. You know this. You've been the laughingstock of wide receivers. You could have had DK Metcalf. No. I'm taking J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, okay? You could have Justin Jefferson. No. I'm taking, what did they take? They take Arcega-Whiteside and somebody else. Can't remember the other guy's name. See, that's what happens. You made the wrong choice, Look at, I'm forgetting the name. He's so bad. Just kidding. But you're the laughingstock. You don't like it. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. Philly deserves better. Not really. I don't really like you. I'm a Patriots fan. But anyway, I think Philly makes up for it all that time by going to get Devonta Smith. So moving on for time purposes, because I'm running out of time. I only got a minute left. I think Chargers go O-line at the next pick. Then I believe that Minnesota goes and gets Kyle Trask right underneath New England. New England's at 15. Minnesota's at 14. I think Kyle Trask comes in. Cousins is there this year and next year. Next year, he's due $35 million. They're probably going to have to stick with that because nobody's going to buy that. But I believe they're going to be looking to move on for Kirk Cousins. After that, they're going to be in cap heck. So they're going to want to save up some money, and that's drafting a quarterback right now. That's Kyle Trask, leaving New England without one of the top 5. So I'm a New England fan, and I'm projecting that they don't get what they want, okay? So with that, as a Patriots fan, I'd like for them to go for me personally, I think they go out and they get the linebacker Micah Parsons, which I believe is going to be awesome. I love that pick. But for the sake of fantasy football, I would like to see Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne, I would like to see him on New England. I think he fits Cam Newton's style. I think it would be a good win for everybody all around. And that's all I got for today. I'm running out of time. Everybody, Thank you so much for joining me. If you're doing this on, the morning of Thursday, good morning. I'll see you.